What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, so that we penetrate the cabinets.
Penetrate the cabinets. Interesting. That guy, Klaus Schwab. We'll talk about him. Let's go right to Connor Tomlinson. He is from LotusEaters.com to give us the great overview, the overview we need to understand what the World Economic Forum is all about, what they're up to. Connor, how are you, sir?
Very happy to join you today, Mike. Thank you very much.
I'm grateful you're here. What do we need to know? You're talking to someone who doesn't really follow this stuff. They don't know what's going on, and they're like, hey, I've heard about the World Economic Forum. Quickly, what do you tell someone before they totally lose interest and call you a crazy conspiracy theorist?
Well, the World Economic Forum are an unelected think tank that market themselves as a neutral nexus where a bunch of world leaders, business people can come and meet and discuss policies on how to make the world a better place. At least that's what they'd like us to believe. And unfortunately, they have dark designs for us, such as confiscating all of your property by 2030 and believing that the complete collapse of energy security via the removal of fossil fuels overnight for countries that are currently developing, like Malawi, for example, who still need to burn wood and can't just get straight onto renewables overnight, they're going to take that away too. So it's not the best idea to be subscribed to them when they don't particularly provide us any value. We don't have any say over the policies that they discuss, yet they hand them on high like received wisdom to our world leaders, who increasingly have become part of their world leaders summer camp called the Young Global Leaders Network.
How is this different than you just saying, I disagree with these ideas? And that's fair. I don't happen to agree with them, but is it worse than these are just bad ideas?
Well, it's fine to have bad ideas. It's just living under them is a total other question. It seems that I suppose it's just a coincidence and a conspiracy theory that the UN and the World Economic Forum's date for pretty much every policy and prediction, like you will no longer eat meat, like the US will no longer be the leader on the global stage, and instead we will have a multipolar world led by the likes of China and the BRICS alliance. All of those have a date of 2030. And it just so happens that the decarbonisation agenda in Britain, for example, has a date of 2030. But plenty of other countries have signed up to 2030 to scrap things like boilers and cars. It's a very strange thing to have it all hinge in one place. And so it leads us, just by process of elimination, to think maybe they got all these ideas from somewhere. And then the World Economic Forum are producing articles, papers, conferences and promotional videos which say, yeah, they all come from us. I think when people tell you who they are, we should believe them. And what they're telling us is we have some very bad ideas for you.
Yeah, it's very odd. The thing you referenced earlier about by 2030 you will own nothing and you'll like it. They've since scrubbed it from their website, but the Twitter account, the Twitter page of it's still there. Like they wrote an article about it. Like they're not hiding any of this stuff. I find that a bit odd. Can you give me an example to the person who's saying that we're overreaching, Connor? Can you give me an example of their influence so far? We don't have to wait till 2030. What have they done so far that is not good?
Well, actually, the perfect influence is the fact that in the UK, we're basically a testing ground for the World Economic Forum's ideas. I know that the Biden administration recently put out a blueprint for digital and AI human rights. So in the UK, our version of that is currently being spearheaded. The policy is being written on the UK government website by the World Economic Forum. Our former health secretary, Matt Hancock, in 2017, introduced Klaus Schwab to a parliamentary committee for the fourth industrial revolution directly to his colleagues. So they have intimate ties here. And then they have a document on their website from 2015 called Blueprint for a Digital Identity. Now, pretty much every NGO, every bank, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Reuters and the like, and the UK Cabinet Office at the time, elected to be Conservatives, in name only over here, of course, and the Australian government coordinated on this. Now in the UK, being currently rolled out is a digital ID citizens consultation, because the government planned to implement it by 2023, along with digital currencies, which our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has already spoken about. You can see the WEF roadmap over the last decade has been laid out on their website, absolutely transparently, and now the governments are implementing the policies, but for some reason, you're called a conspiracy theorist when you notice the connection.
Yeah. What motivates Carl Schwab at the top? And then what motivates the elites around the world? And we played a clip from one of the board members of Siemens. We played a clip from the head of Unilever. earlier. I mean, we go on. It's the who's who, right? What motivates them to even want to be a part of this group? What's the benefit for them?
I think if we tackle the CEOs and the politicians first, that'll understand why people get co-opted into it. This is the framework called ESGs. Obviously, Ron DeSantis has been taking the fight to that, but over here, no politician has noticed. ESGs, environmental social governance scores, are like an insurance mechanism against get woke, go broke. It allows them to lead an insurrection against the board members like they did at ExxonMobil and supplant them with people who are ideologically compliant. And if the company has a high social credit score by doing woke activism or climate activism, then they get a lot of funding, subsidies from the hedge funds and the capital investment firms partnered with the World Economic Forum, like BlackRock. So if you're a CEO and you subscribe to ESGs, and you know eventually governments are going to adopt it down the line with, as I said, with the Blueprint for Digital Identity, a digital currency and a digital citizens ID wallet with a corporate identity angle, then you know you're going to be the only game in town. You know that you're going to have some very lucrative backers that are going to make you a corporate monopoly in line with governments. Like they say, public-private partnership. What motivates Klaus Schwab, I think, is actually a bit more philosophical. I think Jean-Jacques Rousseau probably wrote this best way back before pre-revolutionary France. What he wants to create, seemingly, is a totalitarian state which affords all citizens the total freedom to endlessly consume and be pleasured by renewable-powered metaverse machines that directly stimulate your dopamine receptors in your brain by a brain chip, but without any of those pesky relationships to get in the way, without any pesky responsibilities. It's basically fully automated luxury communism, and it's a total madcap pipe dream, but it's only for him and his friends. Whoever survives the Great Reset will go on to do it, but I'm worried that some of us won't.
Okay, geez, there's a ton there. Beautiful. Rousseau wrote about that?
Yes, he wrote something called, it's in the social contract. He said it is going to be the state of nature in a civilization. He said it's going to be the general will state. So the general will state acts on behalf of the citizens because, of course, the state knows exactly what the citizens want. It's like Lenin's vanguardism, right? But the state of nature is before we were all cruelly taken out of nature and plucked into a civilization. Because, of course, nature provides and isn't cruel at all. And he thought we were all just wandering around, having no relationships. We'd have kids and then just abandon them. That seems to be the idea that they want to get back to, where you're completely disconnected from anyone else. You have no obligations, nothing tying you down, nothing oppressing you. But you can just sit there and have a brain chip and look at all sorts of sordid things on the internet all the time that make you feel good. Basically, like the people in chairs in WALL-E.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Rousseau abandoned his 5 children at the orphanage, had them killed. So he didn't want those relationships either. I could see why he would want to impose that same on others.
Marx wasn't the best dad either, was he? It seems to be a track record here.
Yeah, these are horrific monsters of people. Okay, let's go back to the ESG. I want to make sure I can explain this well. So you're saying these big giant corporations, the CEOs, they see where the economy is going. They see where the power is going to be. And that is this ESG framework, which is just like woke framework. We're going to be environmentally, socially woke in every way. And we're going to get these bonus points. We're going to get scored. And if we play the game the best, then we're going to get the most money from governments, and we're going to get the most money from hedge funds like BlackRock or whatever. They're going to give us the money. So if we can get in front of this, then we'll be, as you said, the only game in town. So you think that's their financial incentive for being a part of it. And maybe they even believe a lot of this garbage as well. But you're saying that's what's pushing this. Is that a good repeating of what you said?
Absolutely. And again, we come back to, okay, how is this being rolled out in a test country? Well, there are 2 examples here. Number one, the Conservatives are going to get absolutely demolished in this election in the UK, right? And so Keir Starmer, who went to Davos and said he prefers Davos to Westminster, is basically the Prime Minister in waiting. One of his MPs, who, by the way, pretended way back when that she got a personal letter from Obama when she didn't, so you can see what kind of integrity these people have that are going to govern our lives. She said that we need a career escalator rather than a career ladder, specifically for Black women, LGBT, disabled people, the like. So you're picking groups, grievance-mongered groups, to play favorites with, and that is what gets you the incentives if you have those many people suddenly appointed to your board with the ESG implementing hedge funds. They're going to give you money for that. So this looks like a government policy that looks very similar to what the WEF are proposing. So there's also at the local government level, and this is one way that Americans and Brits can fight back, they're rolling out the 15-minute cities idea. So it's happening in Canterbury, where I used to go to university, Oxford and Bath at the moment. And the funny thing is, the other day, when members of Oxford were rolling these barriers out of their streets, and lots of articles came out online saying they're going to lock you in districts and fine you for moving between areas of the city, the Oxford City Council came out and like every good little drone of the government, parrot the same line saying it's a conspiracy theory, it's misinformation. Don't worry, we're not putting steel barriers up. It's just some cameras to make sure climate emissions get down. These people are fundamentally incapable of independent thought, but they really would like a secure job, so they say whatever the masters say they are, like Squealer in Animal Farm.
Hey, thanks for watching that clip about the World Economic Forum. Super important to understand what's going on. But the thing is, when you learn about this stuff, I don't know, but my anxiety goes up. It's like global digital IDs and like we're not allowed to eat meat anymore. We're going to eat bugs. Like, what are you talking about? So I get very anxious. So that's why I started this podcast. It's called Politics by Faith. So what we do is we take the story of the day, we break it down, we lament the brokenness, but then we provide some historical perspective and some biblical peace to understand that there's nothing new under the sun. And then what we can do to get through this, even more than get through it, what we can do to win. So that's what the podcast is all about. You can give it a download. It's free, of course, wherever you listen to your podcast, Politics by Faith. And you can watch, you can feel the anxiety wash away.